You're listening to the weekly Parsha podcast with Ari Goldwag, recorded with Hashem's never-ending assistance in Ramat Shemesh Israel, 5779, 2018. This week's Parsha is Parsha's Vayigash. We have Yehuda, Judah, the lion of the brothers, stepping forward toward Yosef. Yosef, who is claiming that Benjamin has stolen his silver goblet, his magic goblet, and now he has to be his slave. And Yehuda steps up, and there's a challenge to Yosef. And in this coming together of Yosef and Yehuda, which is sparked, or it comes about through Benjamin, so Chazal, our sages, see a cataclysmic coming together of those who would be their offspring, whether it's David HaMelech, King David, Mashiach, the Messiah, who comes from Judah, or whether it's on the other side of it, Yosef, Mashiach ben Yosef, the kings who would eventually come from Joseph, or from the sons of Rachel, the King Saul, who came also from Benjamin. I'd like to share with you an amazing, beautiful, deep piece from Chaim Friedlander once again. And he says like this: Malchus Yehuda Rosh Yosef Lev. The foundational concept here that we're going to see, which is very deep and beautiful, is that the idea of Yehuda, the concept of Judah, generally speaking, his leadership represents the leadership of the mind, the leadership of the conscience which dwells, within the mind of the human being. That's the leadership of Yehuda. And Yosef, on the other hand, represents the heart. The conscience that speaks from within the heart of a person. And we'll see how these two different aspects of the human being play out, how they interact with each other, and what is the ultimate goal, and how we are to bring them together. Here we go. Chazal, our sages say, they said about the argument between Judah and Joseph. The verse tells us, it's a verse, I believe, in Psalms, that behold, the kings have come and they're coming together. Who are these kings that the verse is referring to? It's the Yehuda of Yosef. It's a reference to Judah and Joseph. Yosef melech al Mitzrayim. Joseph is the king over Egypt, over the nations of the world. Yehuda Yamanig melech alachav. And Judah was the leader, the ruler over his brothers. Avru Yachtav, what is the idea of Avru Yachtav, which could mean to pass together, or it could mean to have anger together? Zenes mali evra al zeh, zenes mali evra al zeh. The Medrash darshans that each one was filled with anger toward the other one. There was a very difficult and challenging argument that was taking place between them. Each one had anger at his friend. Verse says, they saw and they were in wonder. And the brothers, it's a reference to the brothers, that they were watching this interplay between Judah and Joseph, and they had to step back. They couldn't intervene, because when we're talking about leaders facing off with each other, the heart, the head, as we'll see, so it's something that we have to let it go. We have to let's see what happens. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff here. This is a very long piece. I'm not going to read everything that's here. I picked out the parts that are, to me, the main idea, the main concept that I want to share. Okay? The head and the heart. Just like we have Judah is a certain aspect, and Joseph is a different aspect. One is the head, one is the heart, and they rule over the Shvatim, over the 12 tribes of the Jewish people. So too, it's true in regards to each and every individual. The head and the heart have a different role in the leadership and the guidance of a human being. The Maharal explains the definition of what are these two different types, or two different aspects of the kingship of Judah versus Joseph. The idea here is that the Jewish nation, the Israelite nation, are like if we look at the entire Jewish people, so we are an entire human being. With 12 different limbs. We know that there are 12 different limbs, which correspond to the 12 constellations, the 12 months of the year. Maharal says that there within the human being there are two specific limbs. that rule over all of the other limbs of the human being. They are the head and the heart. When we speak about the heart, so we're speaking about the emotion, the desire. We see inside of Chazal, the sages use the heart, and we see it many times in verses. The heart represents that which motivates the person. It's sending blood to all of the limbs of the person, but it's also the seat of emotion. Ki malchus Yehuda neged harosh. As we said, the kingship of Judah corresponds to the head. Yehuda yala barosh. The verse says in Shoftim, in Judges chapter 1, verse 2, that Yehuda shall go up to the front, to the top, to the head. Kishayatsu, as and Reb Chaim Friedlander explains the verse, Kishayatsu l'malchama shalu b'urim v'tumim yala barosh v'yeshiv Yehuda yala barosh. They asked the Urim v'tumim, who shall be the leader of the Jewish people as they go out to war? And the response was that Judah goes out and he's in front, he's on the top. Yosef tamadu b'em, so we find that Joseph, when we speak about Joseph, we mean Ephraim and Menashe, so he's always in the middle. He's always in the middle. Keneged halev, corresponding to the heart. Shekain timtzav and Nesiim, we find, if we look at the enumeration of the Nesiim, the princes of the tribes, so they brought their korbanos, they brought their sacrifices when the Mishkan was inaugurated, and there's a certain order there, and the Nesiim of Yosef were in the middle. Nasi Ephraim be'emsa, Adam le'lev shu be'emsa Adam. Ephraim is in the middle, which is like the heart of a person, which is in the middle of the human being. And the Reb Chaim says, Reb Chaim Friedlander, Halev hu merkas kol evarim v'darkam ufalis kol evarim. The heart is the center of all of the limbs, and through the heart, all of the limbs are activated. The Maharal continues and says, we know that the soul resides within the brain. And the heart is not as spiritual as the mind. The soul is more spiritual. The neshama aspect, he doesn't explain this part, but I'll just add on here that there's different aspects of soul. Neshama is the highest aspect that we have that resides within the human body, and the neshama is here within the brain, inside of the mind. The lowest aspects really of the neshama. The ruach, which is a lower level, which animates the human being, the ruach, which means spirit, so that's in the heart area. And there's a lower level which is called nefesh, which is the nefesh of Bahamas. Even animals have that aspect of animation, of soul. Okay, so the higher level is the mind, and the lower level is the heart, and yet both are important, of course. Hagdar shel neshama b'rosh hi seichel adam, seichel b'li nigiyos. Chaim Friedlander explains that the aspect of soul being in the mind is speaking about the mind of a human being without any biases. That it desires to receive the light of the soul, which is shining down from a person from above. Right? As we said, this is classically the neshama is found in the place where the tefillin rest, on the forehead, in the spot which is soft on a baby. As the verse says, God will give wisdom from his mouth, understanding, and knowledge. The mind here we're speaking about is that which enjoins a person, directs a person what to do. We're not speaking about intellect, which is able to figure out calculations, etc. We're speaking about the spiritual aspect of the intellect. That guides a person in his service of God, the conscience. As the Chavis Halavavos defines it, it's a shine of the Torah, which is a shine of the mind through the power of the soul, which is pure, that aspect of the human being which is godly. It's like a messenger of God, which guides a person and tells him that which the Torah says. Okay? So that's the aspect of mind. Now let's talk about the aspect of heart. We can understand from what the Maharal says Reb Chaim Friedlander, the heart is a power that needs to be drawn after the power of the mind, after the effects or the instruction of the mind. The mind needs to direct the heart. And we also see that the aspect of Yosef is the aspect of the heart, the aspect of emotion, shlemus. And when it comes to Yosef, so the idea of Joseph is he's the perfect person. He's the person who's able to withstand the wiles of the Yetzer Hara, of the evil inclination. Shaul HaMelech, who comes from Benjamin, also has that aspect. He's a very high-level human being. He's a great tzaddik, a righteous individual. So he has that perfection. So Yosef, so he represents the highest aspect of the heart. It doesn't require the effects or the direction of the mind. Okay, so there's two aspects. There's a heart when it's not in its perfect state, which needs to be guided by the mind. And then there's a heart in its perfected state, and we'll see how the heart gets to that state. There's a heart in its perfected state where it's able on its own to direct the human being, to rule over the human being. Bir hadvarim. What is the idea? Hamar kaisef sheyesh matzav mesukon, yesh matzav lo mesukon. Moral is teaching us that there is a state which is rectified and a state which is not rectified. The highest state of the heart is where the heart is perfected. It's clean of any biases. It's completely pure. In such a fashion, when it's in such a state, so then the heart of a person can direct the person and direct them to the correct path. So when the heart is purified, so it doesn't require the direction of the mind. The heart, embedded within the heart, is an awareness of what's correct. Again, the conscience, and here we're speaking about the conscience of the heart as opposed to the mind. It knows itself what's right. As we find King Solomon in Ecclesiastes and Koheles says, chapter 1, verse 16, my heart saw much wisdom and understanding, much knowledge. What is the idea that the heart sees wisdom? When the heart is pure, so then it itself is the source of wisdom. It doesn't require the mind to help it. Here's the point. How is it? When the heart is so full, it's been completely sponged all of the wisdom, then it has the ability to see from inside of itself what is correct and what's not correct. However, the mind, the intellect, is also a gift from Hashem, from God. When a person incorporates into himself the wisdom into his heart, so that's what the person is trying to do down here. Basically, the mind sends the wisdom into the heart becomes full of wisdom, and then the heart on its own knows what to do. Okay? And in this vein, in this concept, just making sure that I have enough time to say what I want to say. In this concept, we find, I'm not going to read this part inside, but we find that Rashi, for example, says, my heart tells me, I've never heard an understanding, an explanation of this idea in regards to the ephod. Libi omerli, my heart tells me something. This is the explanation. Because Rashi was somebody who had so incorporated into himself and so filled his heart with wisdom, with Torah wisdom, that he was able to say, my heart tells me that this is the understanding, even though I haven't heard explicitly that this is the understanding of something. And this is the idea, he says, of the concept of das Torah. What is the idea? We go to a great rabbi and we ask him, what's the correct thing to do? What is God's will in this situation? Because he's someone who has studied the will of God. He has allowed his heart to become full of God's wisdom, of God's direction, which is what's contained in the Torah. And therefore, when we ask him a question, so when he tells us his heart's answer, so to speak, so there might be questions that haven't been addressed within the Shulchan Aruch, and the other Shalos V'Tshuvos, whatever it is. But the Talmid Chacham has the ability, because he's incorporated and become full of Torah, to give us an answer in regards to questions that have not perhaps been asked before. Okay? However, when the heart is not in that state of purity, What happens is the person, because of his bias, so he's bribed, as it were. He goes towards his own desires. So then he can't depend on the heart's cheshbonos, on the heart's calculations. He must have the mind direct him. So when a person is on that level, which is really all of us, so we need to have our mind, the pure sech, the pure intellect, and the soul and the Torah guide our hearts. Malchus Yosef, what is the concept of the kingship of Joseph? He was somebody who had completely purified his heart. Because of the work that he did on himself, he purified himself to the point where he was righteous down to his root. Shaul HaMelech also was like the King Saul, like a 1-year-old when it came to sin. It wasn't necessary for Shaul and for Yosef to receive the direction of the mind. The heart had reached the truth on its own. That's the aspect of Joseph's kingship, aspect of heart. The purifying of the heart is something that doesn't come as a gift from above. Very, very interesting, very powerful concept here. The purity of the mind is something which comes from above, from the soul. But the purity of the heart is something that only comes through the person's working on themselves. But this great high level is not a consistent thing. It's not something that can be around all the time. That's why Yosef's kingship was only for a short amount of time. That aspect of Yosef is lizman, it's zmani, it's limited. And it's not something that the general populace can accept upon themselves. The general populace needs hadracha of the mind. A person, an individual perhaps, can remain in a state of tzidkus, in a state of righteousness, but it's not something that can last. It's impossible to stay at a level where the heart remains so pure. Malchus Yehuda, but what's the aspect of the kingship of Judah? The kingship of Judah is one that's based on the intellect. The mind is that which is in charge. And it's that which directs all of the aspects of the person, all of his limbs, how to behave. This is the level that ends up, right? Mashiach ben David, when Mashiach ben Yosef comes, he comes first, and he's for a short amount of time. Mashiach ben David takes over from him, and the Messiah who comes from David, and he's the one who is for all time, he and his children are for all time the kings of the Jewish people. Why? Because what happens is that the heart needs to be subdued to the mind. The spirit of the human being, the neshama, the soul of the human being, is that which guides the person and guides the heart in the service of God. This is the aspect of the kingship of Judah, the head, that guides and rules over the heart. It's not because of his own perfection, it's a gift from above, it's a gift from Hashem. Right? Interestingly, before I read on, King David does a great aver, does a great sin with Bathsheba, and yet he recognizes that it's not him. He didn't maintain that high level of tzidkus like Yosef HaTzadik or like Shaul HaMelech. Yehuda also falls with Tamar, and yet because he recognizes that it's a matana from above, a gift from Hashem, so there's a concept of Hashem forgiving even the mistakes. What happens is, when the heart does not subjugate itself to the mind, so then there can be a hafar, there can be a separation between the mind and the heart. And that's what we find, for example, by Yeravam ben Avat, who was a king, Jeroboam was a king over the Jewish people, over the kingdom of Israel, and Rechavam, who was from King David, was over Judah and Benjamin. And there was a separation between these two maluchos. Really, they were supposed to serve together in the service of God. And yet, because there was a separation between mind and heart, it didn't work out. The Kach narrates al Shlomo HaMelech, Noshav Hitu es Levavo. We find by King Solomon that he lost out. His heart was swayed by his wives. I'm not going to get into that. Okay? Bottom line, even when they were separated, it was necessary, it was essential, and it didn't work out that way. But that there would be that the heart would receive from the mind, and there would be a coming together. Okay? Now he brings it back, and we're running out of time here, so we're going to bring it back to the story of Yosef and Yehuda, these two great paragons representing the heart and the mind. There are different ways of serving God when it comes to the intellect versus the heart. But we need to understand that when it comes to the cooperation between the heart and the mind, our sages said, Vayigash elav Yehuda Yehuda. There's an idea that Yehuda was able to draw out, through his convincing arguments, through his intellect. He approached Yosef and he said, you can't take Benjamin as your slave because his father is attached to him, and I promised him, and I made a guarantee. I need to bring him back to his father. He kept drawing out of Yosef. Yehuda as represents the mind. He gave all of these eitzes, all of these different reasons why Joseph should not take Benjamin. And Chazal see that as representing the way that the mind needs to speak to the heart, to convince the heart. Even though the heart is now going to be subjugated to the mind, what we need to understand here, here's the balance. There's this balance. The mind has to direct the heart. And the heart, however, it activates. What happens? The heart is the center of life. In the heart, the emotions are what motivate a person. The person wants to do things because his emotion moves him. It's that desire that moves a person to act. But it needs to be guided by the mind. Yes, we need the heart to activate, to motivate. That's the word I'm looking for. But it needs to be guided by the mind. What is that which comes out of this, practically speaking, when it comes to our service of God? Is to have a clarity in what is the purpose of the mind and the heart. The heart needs a lot of guidance and a lot of subjecting itself to the mind. This is the difficulty. Verse says, you should know today and place it on your heart. We need to know clearly. You should know today. The mind has to know, and then it needs to have an effect on the heart. It needs to be brought home to the emotions. The mind needs to guide the heart. The heart needs to be ready to receive the guidance of the mind. And not get stuck in the biases of the heart. And finally, I'd like to read to you the end of the piece. A person is obligated to make use of these two aspects of himself, his mind and his heart. If the heart is closed, so then the mind cannot have any effect on the heart. The attainments of the mind are left outside. You can know a lot, but it doesn't change a person's actions. Who is the king over the actions of a human being? It's the desire of a person. It's the motivation of the person. Halev, and that's found in the heart. Person needs to conquer and to make his heart open to receive the mind's direction. When a person activates the heart, through the fact that he is affected and he's awakened, he's inspired. Through that, a person prepares the heart to hear what the mind has to say. Then there's an ability in the mind has the ability to have an effect on the heart. The bottom line is, first a person, his heart has to want. It awakens the mind. And that goes from the mind to the thought, rush to the head. And then the mind goes back and has an effect and gives direction to the heart. There's this back and forth, the constant cooperation that's needed between the mind and the heart. And only when there's this cooperation between the mind and the heart, when the heart doesn't feel that it's separate, that it's independent, then the mind can activate the heart. And this is the connection between the kingship of Judah and the kingship of Israel, which is Joseph. As God says to the prophet Ezekiel, chapter 36, verse 16, take one piece of wood, write on it for Judah. It's Ephraim. Take a second piece of wood, write on it for Ephraim, for Joseph. Bring them together. Let them become one. He does a miracle. The two pieces of wood join together into one. Chaim finishes off and tells us that we need to unify. We need to bring together the two extremes of the mind and the heart. It's Yehuda and Ephraim, Judah and Joseph. Only through this can a person attain true perfection. I want to bless you, and I ask you to bless me. Hashem should help us to be able to bring these two aspects of ourselves, the aspect of the mind, the aspect of the heart, which guide us and help us and motivate us. Hashem should help us to find the balance between them, that we should find the cooperation inside of ourselves. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful Shabbos. This podcast was made possible through the gracious donations of listeners like you. For more podcasts like this, please visit www.arigoldwag.com or search on iTunes Ari Goldwag.